I'm Tony Ruiz, contributing editor at Gold Derby, here with Lisa Ann Walter, the star of Abbott Elementary. And Lisa, one of the things that's been amazing to me this season is that your character really has kind of had a breakout year. I mean, you've seen it, and we see it in headlines everywhere. And so I'm curious, what has been the most fun part of expanding and looking at Melissa in a second season?
Well, I mean, you said it. They're kind of a deeper look into what makes her tick. I mean, not that they took away all of her little rage parties that she has. She still gets just as angry. And I'll say to Quinta, "Are you sure we're okay with this?" And I'm hitting the head off of a cardboard cutout. Yeah, it's fine. But you also see a softer side and kind of what drives her, and new scenes with new characters that we didn't get to see. We just had an episode with Melissa kind of coaching Gregory through a hard time where he doesn't think he deserves teacher of the year, educator of the year. And Melissa says, you can't choose when they decide to acknowledge you. And I think that the writers, actually our producers, gave that to me to do because it was at a time during the award season where my co-stars were being nominated and I wasn't, and they were so beautiful and lovely about it, that they were telling me, how much they valued me and how much they loved giving, that I could play anything that they gave me, and sometimes within the course of one short scene I could do all of it. And they were just very effusive in their praise, all of them. And I didn't feel any kind of way about it. I'm thrilled for my co-stars, but to say the line, to have the character say the line, you can't choose when people acknowledge you. It was really meaningful, I think, at that time. And I think what has been the most exciting for me is getting to do scenes with the characters more. I had a few things with Quinta season 1. I have a lot of stuff with Cheryl, which I always enjoy. And even in that stuff, we didn't always play the deeper moment. In the episode Fire, Cheryl is feeling worried for her husband. She thinks might have prostate cancer, or she was, and that's why she let the fire happen. And then she gets vulnerable, and Melissa gets to take care of her. And I love that moment because Cheryl's character is always so strong for everybody else. So to have her be in a weak moment and I get to be the one to be there for her and give her a hug was different. And that's always great. And then there's the readathon episode where I got to have real scenes with this incredible young actress, and also the actress playing her parents, because that was a real nuanced thing to do. Listen, comedy is fun to play, and real comedy where you're playing the truth of it is not easy. As Sir Edmund Kean said, dying's easy, comedy's hard. Is that it? If I remember correctly. But in that scene with the parents, Melissa, who's always so truth-telling and strong with pretty much everybody, is greeting these immigrant parents who are also Black, and she can't be the white woman saying, "You're wrong, let me tell you what's going on." She can't be. Melissa couldn't be. I wouldn't let her be. And it wouldn't have been right, and it wouldn't have been effective. And it wouldn't have done what she needed it to do. It still didn't work, how she was going about it. But Melissa had to dial back her sort of natural self, I as playing Melissa, and be much more, navigate this moment, be conciliatory, try to sell them on this idea. Because Melissa knows what this felt like as a child. She had the reading disorder. So, or disability or challenge. What are we calling it now? You're a teacher, So that was a beautiful scene for me to play, and then followed by the scene with the little girl was, as an actor, I had a blast doing it. And it was showing Melissa, there was no reason for Melissa to put on a face to hide any kind of vulnerability with this little girl. In fact, sharing her true self with this little girl would be the only thing that would work. So I got to do a version of that with her. And That was great. It was very fulfilling. It was a lovely scene.
Well, what I love, particularly about this season, I mean, we talk a lot about, some of the great sitcoms in history have really been ensemble comedies. You look back at the Mary Tyler Moore Show and
I
All in the
call Quinta
Family.
our generation's Mary Tyler Moore.
And I think that's an apt description because
Yeah.
this could have easily become a star vehicle, and instead it's a truly fleshed out ensemble. And I'm wondering if you have any insight as to why this ensemble works so well together.
Well, I think first of all, there's not a bum in the lot. All of us are really good, and specifically the casting was spot on. I mean, I read the script. I read the line where Melissa introduces herself. Melissa Schimanti's second grade teacher, and talks about being a Sicilian. And I was like, this is me. This is my part. There is nobody else in town that can play this like I can. I know all the actresses that they would see for this role, and this is me. This is my family. This is right. And I think that getting Tyler doing his role the way he does, Janelle, who's like just has such joy in playing this character that is not, I mean, it's so funny because when people say, well, she's just not great at her job, Janelle always says, is she not though? Because I think she gets it done. And that's perfect for Ava. And of course, Cheryl and Chris Perfetti, who people didn't know his work before this. And he was a stage actor, but he's just brilliant every moment that he plays. And Chris is not just playing a character that you would normally see being sort of a buffoon or, the woke character. There obviously is some of that in the character, but the way he nuances it, the way every beat that he does is filled with, I want to be a star, and I'm sorry, that's not the right word. I'm being distracted and I have ADHD. Anyway, Chris doing the moments that he does that are also like, I want to be liked. I want to, I'm embarrassed because I said the wrong thing. You see all of that when he plays it. And Stan Davis is Mr. Johnson. Everything he says is gold. Every single one of us, starting with Quinta, who is, I challenge anybody in this country not to absolutely fall in love with her, is just really good at it. And the mix, that's magic. That's the chemistry. That's the alchemy. And you can't, I mean, they guessed it, and they were right. But every cast tries to roll the dice on, are we going to get the show that where they ping off each other? That's some of our favorite stuff to play, all of us. When we're in the teacher's lounge and we each have a line, and the conspiracy theory scene where we're all talking about what we believe and don't believe. And I'm like, I'm not sure the moon landing ever happened. Meanwhile, my father was a NASA physicist who brought back the moon rocks and dissected them. But anyway, where all of us have a quick line, and then at the end of it, we just do it faster and faster. And at the end, we're all like, yeah, that was good.
One of the things that was fascinating to me, particularly this season, is we actually got to see the dynamic between Melissa and her sister, which is so complex and yet feels so lived in, even though it's just a few kind of short scenes. And do you attribute that to the writing? Do you and that actor build that? I mean, you don't have a lot of time.
No, but none of the scenes do. I mean, one of the things about the show that's so great is that it's so chock full of story. We have a through line for the season. We'll have, beats arcs that go a couple of episodes. We'll have A, B, sometimes a C story. There's a lot of characters living a lot of life to service, and the kids, and you have the kids. So the way they weave the stories together is as good as anybody I've seen outside of not Larry Sanders. What am I thinking? Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Larry David,
right? There's so much story happening that connects and bypasses that. It's really beautiful to read. One of the things that I think is partly them and partly us is how we are with each other. I mean, what they do is they see it being written or see us playing it throughout the season, and then they write towards that, right? So Lauren got cast because Quinta knew her work. I didn't know her work. I mean, I've seen her and stuff, but I didn't, really know her. And the way they wrote it initially, I think was probably based on Quinta's experience with a sibling, but the way it played by the time it got to us, and I'm throwing in Sicilian words and slang and, making it more personal. And then it started to feel kind of like my relationship with my sister, but I had to say to my sister when it came out, because we're very close in age, we're a year and a half apart. We've had some competitiveness. And I had to say, this is not based on you. This, I swear to you, Quinta wrote this. I had nothing to do with it. But, you put your own little piece in it and it makes it more real.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask you, because in reading about the show, the show does have a very improv feel to it, even though I know it's incredibly well scripted. So where does that improv come in the process? Are you given like takes to do different things, or do you have input?
Occasionally, but what I will say is two things. Number one, as a comic, there will be things that I do with the audience and interaction. And any comedy show, you'll see this. You swear that was an ad lib. That just happened based on something somebody said in the audience. I've done it 1,000 times. I'm acting. It makes it look like it's the first time I've said it, but it's not. It's planned ad lib. I've done it, right? Of course, there are things that happen in the audience that aren't, that are real ad libs, and it is the first time you say it, and that's beautiful too. In the case of our show, it is our job to make it look like whatever occurred to us in the talking head just came to us, right? Or something, an interplay with another character came out of my head. Sometimes there's a word. I usually ask first. I'll say, hey, could I say jabroni instead of guy? Or the word here would be coolie. Like that's what Sicilians say. It's just, in my, it's a pain in my coolie. But, and they'll let me do that. Or I'll have a name for a cousin. I always throw in, like they'll say my cousin, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, yeah, my cousin Vince, or, my cousin Dom. And I'll throw in names of my actual family, my Aunt Annette. She was happy because she was in the pilot, I think. But what it is that you're seeing that's real, even if the line is completely scripted, and we've done it ever since the table read, is the nuance that they didn't write. It's our look to camera, or it is the truth that we're living inside the body of the character for that moment. You're seeing that real piece. And that's something that's outside of the line. So it might look like something we just thought of, but.
What I find so interesting about that is the looks to camera, which, again, are so classic, and the facial expressions that we capture, are those always scripted, or do you guys just throw those in? Do you work with the director? I know Randall Einhorn is one of your main directors.
How it works generally is, and it depends on the director. Every once in a while, it will be clear in the body of a scene who's going to throw a look to camera. Like you could tell, scenes going on between Ava and anybody, and Barbara and I are standing together. We're both going to look to camera. Oftentimes it's either Gregory, Tyler doing it. He's brilliant at it, or me. I do a lot of them. And because they found that we handle those dry looks to camera pretty well. And it doesn't happen. We're not just doing it necessarily, but in the scene, we know where the cameras are, and they have become people that we know. I didn't always do it. Melissa didn't trust those guys. She still doesn't really, but now they've been around and she trusts them a little more. And she also thinks one of them's cute. So our relationship with these camera people in the house or in the school now it's something that it's a back and forth. This person's doing something really crazy. I'm going to look to the first person who's here, and it happens to be the camera guy, right? So I think that while we're rehearsing the scene, or we're doing the run through of it, the directors will see what we're doing, and then they'll make sure the camera's there for that look. So it's us doing it first, and then it's the directors making sure they catch it.
And speaking of one of those moments, just very quickly, the argument over carbonara with your sister was one of my favorite moments of the season, because it's
over gnocchi.
Over gnocchi, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
Why? Well, I
Why?
explained it in the show.
I know.
It wasn't really about the gnocchi. It was about she took a powder. She wasn't there for the family. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing? Where are you going?
Well, Lisa, just on behalf of teachers everywhere, I want to thank you for this show because it makes us feel seen, I think, in a lot of ways, in a way that I don't think a lot of people see us.
Yeah.
So congratulations on the second season. Best of luck in the upcoming award season. Everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Emmys, and stay tuned for interviews with more contenders throughout the season. Lisa Ann Walter, a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tony. And thank you for what you do, man. Appreciate it.